It's almost cliche to say this, but it's true. I love chocolate. I am totally that chick. I will hop up from my desk specifically to grab a bite of chocolate at least once a day. I've already done so twice today, actually, and it's just past noon. I keep a bottle of chocolate syrup in my refrigerator. I require a very high ratio of chocolate chips to surface area in my pancakes. If I'm happy, if I'm sad, if I'm bored, if I did something horrible, or if I'm proud of myself, there's nothing more soothing than a piece of chocolate. White chocolate can be bright and different. Milk chocolate is so creamy and indulgent. Dark chocolate, decadent on your tongue. Sweet, bitter, I'm not picky. So, needless to say, the whole doing the interview virtually thing was a bit of a bummer when I talked to Dave Owens in his confectionery kitchen. He was overseeing the boxing up of chocolate bars, not getting the chance to smell or taste anything, volunteer as quality control or whatnot. Yeah, it was a bummer. But virtual also has its perks, like being able to catch Dave on an otherwise very busy afternoon. He tuned into our Zoom, hairnet and all.
And we're scurrying to put our first orders together to send out to our stores for the weekend opening at our stores in South County and Warrenton.
I have a chocolate bunny sitting on my kitchen table downstairs, wrapped in plastic from Easter, and it started with a little nibble of its ears, and then I took a bite out of its butt earlier. And that chocolate wasn't even that tempting. I mean, the stuff Dave is whipping up, it looks like a work of art you just want to gobble right up. He says, though, that would not be a good idea.
Keep something else around, just in case. Because that happens if you have nothing else but your one chocolate bar to eat. Real quick, you could find yourself in trouble.
Because this chocolate contains cannabis. Today on Abby Eats St. Louis, honeybee edibles. The new venture from a Missouri cannabis company with a focus on culinary and beautiful artisan candies.
It is an elevated experience. We have a great team behind everything.
How Dave is bringing his experience from a famous chocolate company to what he thinks will be a new high in his career. Sorry, I had to get that out of my system.
It's been really fun to be on the beginning of this roller coaster.
Why he says he can't sample his own product, and who can. Plus, your food news and weekend planner. After a career in restaurants, Dave spent a dozen years at Bissinger's, the St. Louis-based chocolatier that can be traced back to confectioners to the King of France. He wasn't just working the line and whipping up his own concoctions on the side or something like that, though. He was the chief chocolatier and vice president of taste. It's an amazing title, isn't it? The company was sold in 2019 to rivaling Chocolate Company, and with that, Dave decided it was time for something different. He'd spoken to some folks in the cannabis industry where he says he saw the chance to continue making fine confections, just with a few new ingredients. He seized on the opportunity to become head of culinary for Proper Cannabis Company, a Missouri medical marijuana brand, and their new line of infused candies, honeybee edibles.
Well, I think it was an opportunity, one, to serve the medical patients of the state of Missouri. And it was a startup, something completely different. So there's a challenge there. So I said, why not? I'm at a point where I thought that one more big challenge in my career might be fun.
So backing up a little bit to your Bissinger's days, and before you became a cannabis chocolatier, but just a confectioner before this step in your career, if I were to say, Dave, make me something that shows me your personality, pull out all the stops, what would you whip up for me?
I'd probably whip up a caramel-filled chocolate bar or some type of gummy.
So those are two things that translate pretty well to this next phase then.
Yeah, exactly. And we were doing really well in that space at Bissinger's with chocolate bars and gumdrops and different things like that. But this, again, is different because we've got the added component of cannabis, but also the regulations behind it. There's a lot that goes into it. I just commented to my colleague here, it was a whole lot easier just to make chocolate bars and ship them out to Costco or ship them out to Whole Foods or whoever it was than it is to do what we're doing here. Lots of regulations.
He says that's been one of the biggest adjustments to this new role, learning about all the regulations from the state. Missouri voters made way for medical marijuana. Now, patients with certain conditions like cancer, epilepsy, HIV, or chronic pain can get their medical marijuana cards and legally purchase and consume cannabis or THC infused products. That's what you call an edible, by the way, like the chocolates and gummies they're making here in the proper kitchen.
This is a medical state, so it's a little bit different than if it was recreational. But the regulations are a little bit daunting. We were just getting orders together now for our stores, and we have to list all those orders in the state portal. So it's a lot of computer work, a lot of paperwork, and I didn't really realize it was going to be quite so much.
The honeybee is the state insect. That's what inspired the name, they say, but I have to imagine the whole buzz thing has something to do with it too. It's a cute name. And you might not expect a company making THC or CBD infused foods to be, well, cute. That's because your pothead, stoner culture, Cheech and Chong references are so old fashioned. Marijuana is becoming mainstream.
I think so. I think that we're going to see more of an approach like regular consumer product goods companies. You're seeing that with some of the larger multi-state operators. That's how we're looking at it. This is certainly it's people's medication, but it can be treated as a business, and we have all the trappings of regular business. We have people in the different departments that I mentioned earlier, and they all work hard to present our brands. And why shouldn't it be thought of as just another consumer products goods?
Anybody, whether you're a small child or 110 years old, you can have a bar of chocolate. You can have what would you call a neutral gummy? I mean, a
non-medicated, we call it.
Non-medicated. Okay, you can get the non-medicated stuff as much as you want, but now medicated regulation, it's because this is something that's still a little taboo and frankly illegal in a lot of ways
Well,
for
certainly,
some
yes.
people. So tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. We're still not legal on the federal front. We are legal here in the state of Missouri, plus multiple other states have legal programs, either medical or recreational. And in these states, it's available either to patients or to regular consumers of age who want to go in and purchase these items. So, it's a new and interesting frontier.
An interesting frontier for sure. Some people might hear this though and say, well, wait a minute, doesn't that mean it's a very niche thing? Doesn't that mean that it's something that you're not going to be able to reach the type of audience that you are, consumer that you would hope to? But it sounds
Right.
like you have high hopes. No
We
pun
have high
intended
hopes.
there.
Exactly. We have 90,000 registered patients in the state of Missouri, more than 90,000. So that's a pretty good number. Now there's a fair amount of folks that are in the space, either in cultivation or in manufacturing, and they have to have customers, the wholesale customers. But there's 90,000 people out there and growing every day that are looking to find a way with cannabis to help them with the afflictions that they might have, whether that's sleeping, whether that's pain management, maybe that's just for their lifestyle would help them with an active lifestyle, depending on what the affliction was that they got their medical card for.
But looking ahead, Dave is confident there will not be a card required to enjoy his treats eventually. On the day we spoke, the idea of decriminalizing marijuana possession came up in St. Louis County. Maplewood unanimously passed the idea. It's already been decriminalized in St. Louis City. Cannabis enthusiasts call that momentum.
But I would say that it is much like prohibition, and the war on drugs against cannabis has failed. And we can see what it's done to people, the lives that it's affected, and it's ultimately just wrong. It was the wrong thing to do for the last almost 100 years. And so finally, hopefully we see some relief in that space.
Because it's about relief, mostly. Edibles deliver that relief to medical marijuana patients differently than smoking because it's processed through your liver instead of through your lungs, and it provides an alternative to smoking for those who still want medical marijuana benefits. When I was a kid, I remember being prescribed amoxicillin a couple times, the stuff that tastes like pink bubblegum. It's why I had no trouble disagreeing with Dave's point that if you have to take medicine, why shouldn't it taste good?
I basically start with a list of possible flavors, refine those to something that I want to present to the team and say, hey, these are what I'm thinking about, and then let them kind of pick the ones that they might be interested in. And then from there, we would make non-medicated samples, get that kind of dialed in, and then go with it to move forward. No different, no different than my previous life if it was at Bissinger's or one of my restaurants where we would have sampled things and came up with ideas and just see what's going to work.
Mm-hmm. Do you have your medical card?
I don't currently. I've been quite busy, and so I haven't gotten that far.
Yeah. So are you legally allowed to taste test your products?
Well, that's the thing. Really strange, being a chef and not being able to taste my products. We did run a bunch of sample batches that were non-medicated to dial it in, and we tasted those. But now that we're making them, we'll get feedback now from either our patients that purchase them or our in-house team that have medical cards and are allowed to purchase. So we'll get feedback from all of them here soon.
Mm-hmm. How does it really impact the process, impact the recipe? Because it doesn't have a taste to it once it's added. The chocolate's supposed to be the chocolate.
It does, because we're using a concentrate known as distillate, which has basically been refined. It's been refined to the point where the flavor isn't there. And we're adding such a small amount. Think of it this way. We're adding 100 milligrams to a chocolate bar. That's half of an aspirin worth of volume of product to each bar. So it's just not much. So the other components, whether it be chocolate or the fruit in the gumdrops, all those other ingredients kind of overshadow anything that would be there to impart a taste.
Mm-hmm. Not much for taste, but how about for actual effects?
Yeah, it depends on the person. Some people, well, what we like to say is start low and go slow to figure out what your dosage is. The chocolate bars are 10 milligrams per serving of cannabis. The gumdrops are 5 milligrams. And when we get to the mints, which we haven't started making yet, they'll be 2.5 milligrams. So therefore, you can still enjoy a few pieces of a chocolate bar or a few pieces of gumdrops or a mint or two, depending on how your day is going. You can enjoy those, a couple of those, and not overdo it. Now, we know that as people consume edibles over time, their tolerance may change. And so they may require a little bit higher dosage over time.
Was anybody in your life surprised when you said, hey, guess what I'm going to do next?
When I told my siblings, they said, what? And then I explained it and they said, that's great. Good for you. Just got a world-class team here. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. It's fun to be part of a startup that so far has not been the hours of the restaurant business, but that may change. But it's been great. It's been really fun to be on the beginning of this roller coaster.
As I mentioned, I will eat pretty much any kind of candy, any kind of chocolate you put in front of me, but that is not necessarily the case with my beloved friend and producer, Dory Olmos, now joining us via Zoom. Dory, you're a little pickier when it comes to chocolate.
Yes, definitely pickier. So I love anything dark chocolate. If it's white chocolate, I really don't go near it. And then milk chocolate, I'm kind of hit or miss on. Like I like certain candies that have milk chocolate, like Reese's, I'll eat, Butterfingers, things like that. But I'm really picky. It's a complicated relationship, me and chocolate.
I wish I had a complicated relationship with chocolate. Like, I literally just casually this morning, went downstairs and grabbed an Oreo because I was like, haven't had chocolate yet today. Oh, wait, no, just kidding. I did. I think I had chocolate kashi granola this morning for breakfast. So it's a thing. It's a thing, but good for you for being able to withstand that temptation that I am not able to. But hey, speaking of chocolate, we've got some news for one of our favorite chocolate makers in the St. Louis area. Always a always a go-to stop around the holidays. And that's just one of our news stories you have in our roundup this week, Dory.
Yeah, so everybody out there might have an Easter bunny, maybe chocolate Easter bunny from Crown Candy sitting in their kitchen still. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the iconic St. Louis shop just received about $100,000 worth of improvements and money as part of a new show. This show came from Discovery Plus, which is a new streaming service. The show is called Restaurant Recovery, and it's done by Raising Cane's founder, Todd Graves. So he essentially said that during the pandemic, while a lot of smaller restaurants were struggling, his national chain was thriving. So he wanted to pay it forward. He picked 20 different restaurants across the US, and Crown Candy is one of them. So they're a part of 10 episodes streaming on Discovery Plus. And Crown Candy's episode is up now. We won't give any spoilers here, but the owner, who we all know as Crown Candy Andy, said that Todd was their guardian angel and had really helped them get through the pandemic.
That's very cool that somebody could see how their business was, they're in the same family being food service, but his was doing so well, and knowing all these other folks were struggling. And now, not only am I craving chocolate as per usual, but I'm also craving Cane's chicken fingers. So awesome.
Ooh.
We have more chicken news coming up in a little bit, but we're going to hold that for you at the rainbow at the end of this path, because we have a little bit of a sadder story first. We got to get out of the way.
Yeah, so another restaurant closure to let everybody know about. This is in the Central West End. Wildflower Restaurant at Laclede in North Euclid is closing after 26 years. They said this wasn't an easy decision to make, and they said, quote, "The pandemic shut us down completely and then made operating a business built on hospitality all but impossible in a year when many of us passed the time in hibernation and avoiding social contact."
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say I was passing by that intersection not too long ago, and it looked like their patio was pretty, I don't want to say full, but like it was
Bustling.
seated to capacity. Full is pre-pandemic, but it looked like it was doing
Mhm.
pretty well. And so I actually remarked, maybe this is a good thing, and people are rediscovering that nice little corner right there. That being said, perhaps now looking back at it, it might have been a neighboring restaurant using their patio. I don't quite know, but either way, it's a gorgeous space right there. And now that's two places. The Einstein Bagels across the street from Wildflower has closed. It closed during
Mm.
the pandemic, which I was surprised by that. But so now there's a lot of opportunity if somebody is interested in getting in the Central West End. There's some prime locations there that I know I would love to see filled with something.
Yeah, prime location there for sure. Okay, well, how about we get back to that golden rainbow
Of
with
chicken.
filled with chicken nuggets, right? Yes.
The pot of gold at the end of the
So
rainbow is full of chicken nuggets.
chicken, yes. Hey, I would take it. So we've got a restaurant expansion to let everybody know about. The guys behind the Nashville hot chicken concept, Chuck's Hot Chicken, are looking to add a location in O'Fallon. So they have one right now in Maryland Heights. They're looking to get that second location in O'Fallon, and probably putting it in an old sandwich shop that's along Highway K. Not a whole lot of details yet on this one from Chuck's Hot Chicken, but they're looking to possibly open in early June. Hot chicken is a hot, like trendy sort of food the past couple of years.
I'm in favor of it. I remember going to Nashville a couple years ago and being like, I've got to get hot chicken. And honestly, it wasn't that different than what we can get around here now. So I'm liking all the different options with that. Mm. Now I want hot chicken
Mhm.
tenders and some chocolate.
Now we know what you're going to eat for lunch today.
There you go.
Well, the next time you go to the Schnucks in Kirkwood, you could have a lot more options, some tasty options coming there. They're doing a total renovation of that location, which is at Manchester and Woodlawn in Kirkwood. They're going to be adding features like this sounds so trendy too, a self-service nut butter section, kombucha on tap, and an expanded grab and go area. That just sounds very Trader Joe's like, doesn't it?
It sounds like something that would like the characters from Portlandia would. I haven't made a Portlandia reference on this podcast in quite some time. Wow.
It's been a while. I give you a lot of credit.
Yeah, Fred and Carrie walked into Schnucks and were like, "Hey, we've got some ideas. A self-service nut butter section. And Schnucks people were like, okay, I guess we're going with that. But no,
Okay.
when they say self-service, do you know what they mean by that? Like, are you scooping it out yourself, or is it just like you get to
That
grab
I
it?
don't know. They didn't go into details. I read their news release about it yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't go into any further details about that. So, we'll see, I guess.
Interesting, interesting. I like almond butter, so there you go. I mean, go for that. But they also have some other cool features that involve some restaurants, right?
Yeah, so they're going to be adding a food hall concept in store. I think this sounds really cool, and really the neatest thing about this whole renovation that they're doing. So they're going to have like a little food court area inside Schnucks with the shaved duck, soul taco, and Greek kitchen. They'll have a
Hmm.
service counter with a seating area. And then also they're adding in an arch apparel store inside the store. So a lot of new kind of concepts coming to that location there. They're hoping to have this done by midsummer. That Schnucks, I've been there several times, especially recently. It seems like your standard size Schnucks store. So I don't know. I'm curious how the layout will be in there, and if they're taking away some aisles of products to fit all of this in. But who knows? Maybe they're testing out this location for trying to do this in other spots at other Schnucks. That could be interesting.
Doing Instacart, I was never an Instacarter before the pandemic, but I've almost exclusively done Instacart at my local Schnucks, just for pickup. And I said even just last week, I don't think I'll ever go into the grocery store again if I don't have to, because, if you're not you can go to a specialty market or farmer's market or things like that for some things, and then just get your basics from Schnucks and get it delivered straight to your car. That being said, I bet you this is in some ways a way to remind people like, hey, come into our stores. We have more to offer. I would go
Yeah.
into that store. I would go into that store. So creative.
And
Interesting.
hang around. Yeah. And I was thinking about the other grocery stores that are along that stretch of Manchester. You've got like a Fresh Time. I think there's a Trader Joe's maybe not too far away. There's a Deerberg's just down the street. So maybe they're trying to do something to kind of set themselves apart in that location, and kind of going with that concept of the going to the grocery store, like you're saying, is an experience, not just going to get your Oreos or chocolate.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And that's all you need at the grocery store. Except for now, actually. This sounds like something I'm going to need to pick up at the grocery store once I see it.
Yes, you'll definitely want to check out 1220's new canned cocktail. So this is available late April is what they said. So I'm hoping that means right now. It'll be available through September. It's a new Paloma canned cocktail. So this is a tequila based drink with grapefruit and lime juices and grapefruit soda. From our friends at Four Hands. Remember, we did an episode with them in 2019, summer
Yes.
2019, where
The
we
Real
talked with them
Spirits of
about
St.
these canned
Louis, I think is what
cocktails.
we called it. I think that was the name of
Yes,
the episode.
exactly. That was a great
That was a
one.
good one.
Um, so I did want to add that 1220 at Four Hands, they were offering Palomas during the pandemic last year for pickup in like these bigger cans. I'm a big Paloma fan. I love anything with grapefruit. So I definitely went down and got some, and they were really good. So I'm really looking forward to see how they do this as far as canning it and selling it in stores. I think it'll be a good addition and a great summer drink.
And I'm not a huge tequila person, but I like Palomas. So that's like I'm not a big margarita person, but these sound really good. That sounds like a great thing to grab and hang out in your backyard, Dory, with your puppy. And I'll
Yeah.
be there, just be there with your puppy and my Paloma, and then that's it. That's my summer 2021 plans.
Hey, yeah, come on over. We will have a puppy party, maybe take some pictures of our puppies, and who knows, they could get a job out of it,
I
right?
like where you're going with this. Tell me more.
Oh, so Bush Dog Brew now needs a spokes dog. So I obviously we have a couple pups who would definitely be up for this job. The beer is offering a $20,000 professional gig for one special pup to be the spokesperson for Bush Dog Brew. That we talked about this last year when it came out.
Yeah.
It's a non-alcoholic bone broth drink, but it was a huge hit with pet owners, obviously, who want to kind of crack one open with their pet, maybe out on the patio. So Bush is looking to expand on that brand now. They're hiring a chief tasting officer. And of course, there are perks with this job. Like I said, it's $20,000 that the pet will get, plus pet healthcare coverage, and of course, free brews. Okay, so if you have a dog in mind, here's what they're looking for. They want a pet with a refined palate.
Okay.
When I think of refined palate, I think of Mia for sure.
Yeah,
So I think
she
she
did
would
eat
be.
some rabbit droppings in the backyard this morning though. But I like to say that's backyard caviar, so that counts as refined.
She's resourceful.
Yeah.
They're also looking for some pooches with an outstanding sense of smell, and proficiency in English would be remarkable, but not required. So that would put my Brutus, my little pup Brutus, who knows about 2 words right now, he'd fit into that little bucket there. So if you want to apply, get your pet in the mix, you can post a picture on social media with their qualifications, their little resume, and use the hashtag BushCTO contest.
Oh, we have to do this story. Okay, first off,
I think
know
we
that
have to.
Brutus was not, he was not ready for his podcast debut until last week, in part because I'm part of this apparently. We all didn't have a name that we had all agreed on for Brutus. Have you considered maybe instead of BRUTUS, BREWTUS? Would you change his name for $20,000?
Yes. I was going to say we have the name tag made, but we can easily swap that out.
I was going to say, I would invest in changing that out. That's so fun. Oh my gosh. Okay, so if anybody out here does that and you use the hashtag BushCTO contest, again, of course, it's Bush Beer, BushCTO, also tag us in that so that we can see it. I need more dog pictures in my timeline always. I want to see who's going for it. That's so fun. I love that. Okay, well, hopefully we are going to be just slopping down a whole bunch of bone broth beer this summer in the future. But as for now, Dory, what's the best thing you had to eat this week?
Yeah, well, actually, speaking of Instagram, I was looking for some dinner inspiration last week. And whenever I'm not quite sure what I want to eat, I go to our Instagram page and I just start scrolling.
Me too.
I see. You see so much good stuff out there. So while I was looking for dinner inspiration, I actually saw a post from Nathaniel Reed Bakery that really caught my eye. They had this loaf that, also speaking of chocolate, looked like a giant Ferrero Rocher thing. It just looked like chocolate covered with nuts in it.
I saw that.
Did you see that? It has this little orange slice on it. So I clicked on it or checked it out because I'm like, okay, that looks like it has hazelnut, which it did. So it's a pound cake with hazelnut, milk chocolate, and citrus. Has a very slight hint of orange and lemon that just like really brightens it up. But really, after I saw that post, I just knew I had to go and get one. So I literally went out the next day and got one when I was out in Kirkwood.
She's a go-getter.
It was, yes. Yeah, if there's one thing I'll travel for when it comes to chocolate, it's something with hazelnut in it too.
Yeah.
So Wen got that. And of course, if you go to Nathaniel Reed, you can't just get one thing. So also picked up some macarons, always good. Got that little, got the pound cake loaf. And then also all of their little cakes that they have in that center display. I would take one of each. And I really want to one day go in there and just be like, give me one of each of those little cakes that you have, because they're all so good and beautiful. Got one of those, and then also a pulled pork sandwich, which was like just as good. You can get just a little bit of everything there, and it was just so good.
Man, that sounds so good. What kind of bread was the pulled pork on?
It was on a focaccia. It was so soft.
That sounds so good. Man, I'm getting hungry. That sounds really good. You had a little bit of everything, a little sweet, a little savory. Mine was all sweet because we were just talking before we started recording the podcast that in some ways I fooled myself into thinking it was already summertime. Like this weekend, I put all my sweaters away and got my flip-flop. I literally bought new flip-flops. So I was like, it's almost flip-flop season. And yeah, it snowed yesterday.
Don't you know?
I should know. I know. And here's the thing. I usually get mad at when I see people walking around in sandals before Memorial Day. Cause I'm like, you guys know it's going to get cold again. I think I tempted fate. But that being said, there are some warm weather things that are very much doable right now. And you know what? They don't even have to be a warm weather thing because Ted Drew's is good all year round. And so I had my first Ted
Oh
Drew's
yeah.
of the season and went to the original on Chippewa and got a Dutchman concrete. So that's a concrete with chocolate, butterscotch, and pecans. And it was just so tasty. And like, of course, you try to be good and you're like, can I get the mini, please? And they give it to you. And you're like, that's a mini. It's so much ice cream. I'm not going to finish all this. And like 5 minutes later, it's gone. Yeah, the tradition continues.
I'm surprised you got a mini. I always go for medium just because I know I'll want to have leftovers.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't gonna have leftovers though, because went with some friends who lived down the street from it, and it was like, and it was nice to see a nice little. They have the line very like organized, so that people can be spaced out. It's quite a nice little operation there. They have all the plexiglass between, because I hadn't been there since the winter time during like Christmas tree season and all of that. So, yeah, it's a Ted Drew's season, baby. I'm ready for it. So, speaking of seasons, we are still hopefully wandering toward warmer weather. And so that brings us some different, again, a season of reopening slowly and safely in this phase of the pandemic. So we do have a couple events that we want to let you know about. This first one, of course, we're talking about the almost last week of April, April 23rd through 25th. So now, every Friday in the park from 4 p.m. to dark at Tower Grove Park, they are going to have their sip and stroll. So this is something that they did a little bit in the summertime, and fall rather, during like on Saturday afternoons. This is a Friday night event, starting at 4, going till what time is Sunday?
Yeah, 8:30ish.
It's the folks at St. Louis Barkeep. They're going to be making and shaking cocktails over by the Lily Pond shelter. And you can do exactly what they say, sip and stroll, walk through Tower Grove Park in the evenings, and 20% of every drink purchase will be donated to Tower Grove Park. Again, this is an ongoing event starting on Fridays. So if you want to get your happy hour on, but also be socially distanced still and maybe get your steps in, Tower Grove Park is the place to be.
And it's blooming right now. I drive by it, every time I pretty much leave my house, I have to drive by the park, and just seeing the outskirts of the park, everything's blooming. It
It's
just looks so beautiful right now. So
It's my
a
favorite
great
park.
day, yes, a great time to sip and stroll, literally. So head on out there. If you're looking for some other tasty options for the weekend, this Saturday and Sunday, we have Bayou in the Lou. It's an event put on by Sauce Magazine and event promoter Jamo, which we mentioned them once last year. They were putting on some of these socially distanced concerts that were happening near Busch Stadium, where people kind of had their little square that they could watch concerts in. So put on by them. This time the event is at City Foundry. They're going to have live music each night, and then also food from Sister Cities Cajun. So if you're interested, just know that tickets are required to enter, and then that ticket does not necessarily get you food or drinks. You also have to purchase food and drinks separately, which you can pre-order before going. And then you can also order on site too. So tickets required, and you buy them in pods of up to 4 people. So they're doing their best to kind of keep people grouped together while socially distant at that event at City Foundry.
Cajun food. Again, stop doing this when you're hungry, Abby. City Foundry, by the way, that's very highly anticipated event space right off Forest Park, near the IKEA here in the city, and it's really cool. We did an episode with them a little while back talking about how the project was going. It's going to have, eventually restaurants, movie theater, event space, a food hall, and that being said, there are a lot of things that are kind of put on pause in some ways, or the openings have been delayed, but it's great to see they're already starting to get some events going on in this space. And if you've been curious about it, this is going to events like these are a good opportunity to go wander around and see what it's going to look like eventually. Sunday is another opportunity at City Foundry. This is one of the I always have a hard time saying it.
Mhm.
Procure. It's a beautiful looking word in all the social media posts, but like saying it's a different story. Procure is their marketplace they host on occasion for female brands. The Women's Creative is putting this on at City Foundry with 40 local women owned businesses this upcoming weekend. They also have food available this week. It's from a Balkan treat box in 1207. That's happening outside from noon to 4. It is free to go to, but again, when we're talking about the different measures to help with crowds, you will need a ticket to get in so that they can kind of keep track on that. Just check out the Women's Creative website for that. Or you can also look them up on Instagram. They're pretty well linked over there. So this is going to continue every last Sunday of the month through October. So very cool, something to look forward to. I always like doing those types of things around the holidays, so I like seeing that it's happening now.
Mhm.
Maybe a good time to buy something for Mother's Day. It's that's coming up faster than you'll know it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was looking at the calendar. I'm like, oh shoot, well, this will be the last one before Mother's Day. So it could be a good opportunity to go shop for your mama and then support some local female-owned businesses.
Ooh la la. Ooh la la. Ooh la la.
Abby Eats St. Louis is a Five on Your Side production. I am Abby Larico.
And I'm Dory Olmos.
Please be sure you are subscribed to our podcast. Seriously, if you get us every week, that's great because you hop on and download. Wonderful, but make it easier for yourself. And just go ahead and subscribe. And we really want to know what you think about the podcast. Leave us a rating and a review as well. And by the way, that does help other people find the podcast. So we want to make sure that people keep hearing these wonderful food stories that we're trying to bring you from around the St. Louis area, especially as we head back toward, dare we say, normal heading into this summer. We know you want to go out to eat, so we'll help you figure out where to go do that. Let us know what you're thinking and where you're eating at our Instagram page at Abby Eats St. Louis. Don't forget to tag us in your dog pictures too. Make sure you're washing your hands and seize the plate.